Going Green TV. This show is sponsored by the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce. And on the show today, my co-host, Shawn Novack, who's the Water Resource Program, Conservation Program Manager with the Water Resource Association of San Benito County. We'll be talking about water, and this is a subject that I know you're concerned about, being 10 years into the drought, and we've got water restrictions on use and possible fines on not using water wisely. So we're going to talk about where we are with water conservation and how we can get through this drought and cope with what we have to face in the years ahead. So
yeah, thank you, David.
Shawn, hey, thanks for joining us today again, as usual.
No, I appreciate being able to talk to the community. We're in this situation, as you mentioned, we've been in drought for a number of years now. I've been in San Benito County for 10 years, and we've received less than our average amount of rainfall for, probably about 70% of that time, so 7 out of 10 years. We had a couple average rainfall years, but nothing spectacular. So our water supply, for people who don't know, we depend a lot on our groundwater basin. But our groundwater basin is unique. It's pretty much like a closed loop basin. Very little water leaves our basin to hook up with the Pajaro River and go out to the Monterey Bay. The only time that happens is when we have a really big storm event and water's coming down the San Benito River. Because there's a little gap down by Aromas, it's called the Chittenden Gap.
Right.
And it's kind of a little gap that the water has to get over to get into the Pajaro River. So it takes quite a bit of surge to get over that. Mm-hmm. So most of the water that we see come down San Benito River, or we use inside for ag and urban supplies, ends up staying in the basin and percolating down into our groundwater supply. And that can cause a lot of problems because ag and then like water softeners, things like that, can add salts and mineral content back into our groundwater basin, which we already have natural mineral content, because as that water comes down the San Benito River from South County, it passes through some marine rocks and stuff. This used to be under the ocean at one time. So it picks up natural salts and calciums anyway, and then we add to it with our activities. To keep the basin in balance, the San Benito County Water District imports water from the Central Valley Project, which is basically snow melt and runoff, and it goes down all the way from Shasta all the way down south of Bakersfield. So it's a big system that was built in the 20s. We hook up at the San Luis Reservoir over by Highway 5, and you should see those pumps that are over there. It pumps water up through Casa de Fruta and through the pass up there, and then what we call bifurcation. Half of it starts going up to Santa Clara County Water District, and the other pipeline goes down here and terminates at the San Justo Reservoir. So anyway, we import water in, and that's that really good quality snow melt surface water, which has less mineral content in it. And we bring that into our basin, and that helps keep our basin level.
That's the blue pipe water?
Blue valve. It's called locally blue valve. It can be called San Felipe Project water or CVP water. There's three names that are used interchangeably. But anyway, we've started, because of the environmental issues up in the Delta, they started cutting back our allocations years ago to help keep the environment healthy up in the Delta for the steelhead, to keep out salt water from the bay, things like that. So they reduced the pumping up there, so that cut back our supplies. It's been over 10 years now. And then with this lack of rainfall and snowpack, we've been reduced. The last couple of years, ag got zero allocation from that system. And what we call M&I water, which is municipalities and industrial, had 50% of their allocation last year. This year it's down to 25%. So we pretty much are off that system. So we're depending on our groundwater basin. And just a few years ago, our groundwater basin was full. And there's about 500,000 acre feet of water capacity in our groundwater basin. So that's a lot. That's about a quarter of what San Luis Reservoir holds underneath our ground. And that was almost full a few years ago, but since we've had to rely on it, we've seen the elevations dropping. I know last year we do a groundwater report every year, at least the San Benito County Water District does, and they show on average, about a 30-foot drop in elevation last year, and we're probably going to see more this year. But even with that, we're going to be above historic lows. So I'm not saying it's not a serious situation, but our area is better off than some other areas of the state. Like Central Valley particularly is having huge problems because of so much pumping going on over there. But then, so it really depends on what part of the state you live in, how bad your water supply is. I know up on the north coast, they have ample water and less population, so they don't really feel it as much as we do down here. But anyway, the governor, go ahead, did you have something to
Well,
say? I'm sorry. It's deep.
Yeah, I remember we had the drought workshop not long ago, and,
Yes.
and I remember showing the snowpack and the Sierra slide, and it looked like, you can see what the drought effect on the snowpack, because I think a lot of the source of our water actually comes away from all the way up in the
That's
snow
correct.
regions, right?
Yeah, because if you look at our precipitation, which includes snowpack, 66% of that occurs north of the Delta area, and 66% of the demand for that water is south of the Delta. So they figured that out a long time ago, and that's why that conveyance system was built to transport that water from the wetter climates down to where the demand is. So it's been interesting.
And I know Governor Brown has some ideas about drilling tunnels in the Delta
He does.
system.
In the November elections, they passed that bond, which is supposed to increase the environmental health of the Delta. It's going to allow the Delta area to kind of rest and divert that water around there so it's not disturbed as much, and it's supposed to be a much more efficient method of transporting that water. So
That's probably a long ways off.
A long
before
ways
they do
off,
anything
a
there.
long ways off. And he's announced some other programs, which nothing I've been watching, and there's nothing materialized yet. I'm sure it will, but it's down the road. So the only thing we can really do now is conserve our water supply so we can stretch it. Because what concerns me, although our area, like I said, is in better shape than others, we don't know when this drought's going to end. So for water conservation to work, you got to start today to stretch that supply in case we get another dry year next year.
Yeah, I remember we had a water show not too long ago, and talked about scientists looking at tree rings.
Yes.
And the drought, it occurs through successive years typically. So I know we're in our 10th year right now.
Yeah, about 10. We had a couple average rainfall years, but since, I don't know, what early 2000s, we started having these drier times, And with climate change, which is, a proven scientific fact now, we're going to see more weather like this, less snowpack, warmer winters. So efficiency is key right now.
Well, with climate change, I know that there's been some studies from Stanford. Stanford scientists have looked at the climate in terms of drought and dry conditions with the weather change has definitely had an effect.
Sure.
Exacerbated the drought with the warmer weather.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But my agency, I'm lucky. We operate really efficiently because we represent those 4 districts. So it's just me and another person, and we service about 41,000 people. But we get around fairly well. We have several programs to help people with their water usage. One of our most popular, and I recommend people do this, it's called our Home Water Survey. And what we do is we'll go meet you at your house. We'll check your house for leaks. We use the meter to tell if there's a leak, and we like to show people how to use that because a lot of people never lift up that little cover and look at their meter. And on your meter is a little leak detector on there. It's either a blue star or red cross, and that measures water at a real low flow. So if you open that thing and you see, and all the water's off inside your house, nobody's taking a shower, you're not running any appliances.
And the needle's still moving, they got a leak.
You got a leak, yeah. So if you call us, we can come out and help you find that, and we can show you how to read your meter. While we're there, we can put on low-flow shower heads, faucet aerators. We give you a hose nozzle to use outside with a quick off, shut-off device on it. We'll look at your irrigation system. When we go around, we look at the heads because sometimes the heads will get misaligned and they'll be shooting on sidewalks or driveways. So we make sure that's not happening. We provide you with recommendations. We can help you control your irrigation controller, program it for you. And if you have a water softener, we can help you make sure that's running efficiently as well.
I think a lot of people in the residential areas, I know I walk my dog in my lunch hour, Cleo. I noticed I see a lot more brown lawns out there. The brown is now the new green.
That's the slogan of the state. But I want to remind people, we started a turf removal program last July, and we're currently paying $1 a square foot up to 500 square feet to remove your turf. But you have to remember, before your grass dies, we understand it's going to be brown, but we have to go out there and do a pre-inspection before you start tearing it up. We measure the area you're going to pull up, and then make sure there's lawn there. And then after that, you have to provide us with a material list of what's going to go in that area, and we limit it to drought-tolerant plants, native plants, or some kind of permeable hardscape, which basically means anything to allow the water to go through to the soil so it can be gravel, rocks, redwood chips, gold finds, a whole host of things. So, you know, I'll have my contact information later, but we really focus on turf because turf, you know, when you look at residential water use, over 50% of water is used for landscape purposes. And that's why the governor came down on that, because that's the easiest thing to try to control.
Now, when you say the governor came down on that,
well,
specifically,
yeah,
what do you mean?
let me whip out my restrictions here because I want to get this right. The City Council of Hollister and the Sunny Slope County Water District both enacted these recommendations from the State Water Control Board.
Yes.
And what they're doing is landscape watering shall be limited and restricted to no more than 2 days per week. Okay? Odd number addresses are hereby restricted to watering on Tuesdays and Saturdays, whereas even numbered addresses are restricted to watering on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Okay.
Sounds like a hardship, okay? This time of year, even if we had plenty of water, we wouldn't recommend more than 2 times a week anyway. What the concern is, as we get into the summer months here, late June all the way to mid-September, normally during a normal year, we'd recommend probably 3 times a week. So we're taking away 1 day a week, but there's some strategies that we can enact to help them water their yards. And you know, I tell people to save their water for some of the plants they really enjoy most. A lot of lawns will come back, even if they're brown, if they get some good rain in the fall. They'll come back eventually, you know, so
Right.
you can let them go. But if you have any plants that you really love or were given to you by a loved one that you planted, like I have a tree at my house that my mom gave me and she's no longer with me and has a lot of sentimental,
Absolutely.
you know, so I'm going to do all I can to save that. But we can give you some strategies and help you program your irrigation controller to meet these restrictions. And before I move on, San Juan Bautista, I just want to reach out to the people there because they're doing things a little different. They're only allowing 2 days a week too. That's what the governor was talking about. But you can water on any day other than Mondays and Thursdays. And they say before 8 a.m. or after 5 p.m., where the city and Sunny Slope say 9 a.m. is the cutoff, between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., but after those times or before those times you can water. Okay. And then the other restrictions, I mean, we have these on the books all the time. You know, no water running to waste, because one of the issues we have in our county is we have a lot of clay soils, and those pop-up sprinklers that most people have apply too much water at once.
And the water just doesn't drain.
It doesn't
percolate.
soak into the ground, so it creates water running off your property.
Yes.
So we recommend that you cut down the irrigation times to like 5 minutes, and maybe do two this time of year. You do 5 minutes, let it rest for an hour, then program another 5 minutes later in the day. And then in the summertime, when we're still restricted to 2 days a week, maybe do it 3 times like that. And that allows the water to soak, you don't have runoff, and we can help you with that as well. But I always tell people, you know, if the only time you're on your grass is when you're mowing it, you got too much grass, and you should take advantage of our turf removal program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that would be a good idea.
Yeah, and another big one is, you know, if you have an older house that was built before '92 and you haven't changed your toilet out, those old high-consumption toilets use from 3.5 to 7 gallons per flush, and that can account for 28% of indoor water use in a residential home if they haven't swapped that out. So the new toilets, like we give out or we have rebates for, use 1.28 gallons per flush. So that cuts that percentage down
That's
a lot.
the requirement in the Calgreen Code
It
for
is.
new construction.
Yeah.
And also the Calgreen Code, if you do an addition, it's mandated that you go into your existing areas and replace existing fixtures to low flow savings of fixtures.
Yeah, I'm aware of that one. But,
Yeah.
But you know, let's talk about new construction since you brought it up. We're having a bit of a building boom right now. People are like, well, what's happening in the middle of a drought? Which it's a
lot of allocations have been given out.
It's a legitimate question. And you know, you got to remember these homes are not going to be occupied all at once. They'll be phased in over a period of time. So it's not like, you know, thousands of people are going to be moving in tomorrow. So those will be phased in. The new homes are much more efficient because of what you said, because of the green plumbing codes.
Yes.
And also the model landscape ordinance, which is adopted by the city, requires less turf areas with more drought-tolerant plants and permeable hardscape, like we're trying to achieve with our things. So these new homes are much more efficient. They're going to be phased in, you know, over time. And you know, we just don't take directions from the state. I know the water agencies in the Hollister area work on what's called an urban water management plan. So the city, Sunny Slope, and the San Benito County Water District, every 5 years they update this document. And in this document, and it's available to the public, it's on all the websites for those 3 entities, it lists, our water inventories, where we get our water from, the creeks, rivers, wells, our imported water. We're going to start getting some recycled water that's going to be taken to the farmers coming up here in July. It accounts for all that.
It'd be the purple.
The purple pipe, yeah,
purple
yeah,
pipe
yeah.
water.
So I'm excited about that, which I'll get into a little bit.
Okay.
But anyway, it gives a whole inventory of these things, and then inside this document is what's called our drought contingency plan, and there's different triggers that trigger different levels. Well, right now we're at level 2. Okay, and that requires a big conservation effort. Now we go to level 3, like let's say next year we don't get rain again. We'll re-examine that and look at that document, look at the water supply, and if we get to level 3, that's when building permits will be, they'll be looking at that, thinking of suspending them at that time, and they'll be considering
Might
that.
have to go into growth control.
Might have
ordinance.
to at that time, but I mean that won't be, right now the water managers feel there's enough water in our groundwater basin to support this building. There's a few years of even we didn't get a drop of water for the rest of the year. We have water there for a few years right now. Okay?
Right.
Hopefully we'll get recharge water from rain and imported water next year, and this will be a non-issue. But one thing I don't want to get lost in this is, we're in a new era now when we're talking about climate change. The state continues to grow in population, and water is a finite resource. So that means, it's just like any other finite resource. We have to use it.
So we want to stay in our conservation
Exactly.
mode, regardless if we get
Yeah.
rain in the next year or whatever.
Yeah, because I'm a native Californian, and Californians are really good about answering the call to conserve when we have a drought. But as soon as we get a few wet winters under our belt, people forget about all that, and it just goes out the window. We can't afford to do that now, in other words.
Yeah.
So this is a way of life, and my agency is here to assist people with water
It's the
saving.
new water reality.
It is, and it's like any finite resource. There's just a lot of people that are on this planet, and the climate's changing, and we just have to use it better.
Okay, so I don't want to get into the negative aspect about it, but there are potentially, if you overuse water, you could receive a fine.
Well, the way we're approaching it is if you do one of these violations, which, by the way, everybody will be getting a bill insert with the Sunny Slope of City of Hollister and the City of San Juan Bautista when the next bills go out, which will be about the 1st of May, which will explain these restrictions in detail, and has the number of my office on there so we can help you, let us know. But if somebody's violating the restrictions, we try to go out and educate them. We let them correct it. The second time around, we can issue a violation which has, let me make sure I get this right, which I don't have it on here, but I know it goes up $50, $100 for the 3rd violation. And then you get up to the 4th violation, it's like $500, and they'll put a flow restrictor on your house to reduce the pressure so you're not using as much water. But, we're hoping that, everybody, nobody wants to waste water. Most of it's because they're unaware or about it. And that's what my agency is here, is kind of help you how to use it. So I think most people, I know in the past, like last year, we had voluntary conservation, and we'd see water going to waste. When we approached the homeowner, they were just like, wow, I didn't even know that was happening. Because, a lot of people commute, and the sprinklers go on either after they leave the house, or, they're not aware of it.
They're not aware of it.
They're not aware of it. So bringing that to their attention, they're, because they don't want, number one, they don't want to waste the water. Number two, they don't want to pay a higher price for water they're wasting. And they want to do the right thing. So
Yeah, and I think statistics have shown that, across the board, people want to save water, and they
do.
have been doing. They've been doing a good job.
And I'm lucky because the people here in San Benito County, there's a close relationship with the land. There's a lot of good stewards of the land, and people understand that. So I'm very lucky. I work in an area where people get it. So I think we're going to meet the goals, and like I said, we're here to help people. And we have washing machine rebates. We have the free toilets if you have one older than 92. We have that service I talked about earlier. The turf removal program. We have a water softener program where we pay you money to demolish your water softener. I'm available to talk to schools. We can take kids to the local water treatment plant, wastewater plant, which is, I think it's great. They always love it. They love going down there and, seeing the plant. Imagine 12-year-old kids going to the wastewater plant. It's like, ooh, So anyway, they enjoy that. And, I'm available for service groups or anything. We reach out to that. And So anyway, I encourage people to use our service.
And collectively, we can make a difference. That's for
We
sure.
can, you know, like even last year, I was going to say we had voluntary conservation efforts, and we were almost up between Sunny Slope and the city combined. We asked for 20, people got to 15% without, you know, issuing violations or anything like that.
Yeah.
So people did try, you know, and that's something else I want to remind people too. When they ask for a 25% reduction, it's from your 2013 consumption, because we had a lot of people that really went overboard last year and really bared down, and they already conserved 20 to 25%. So they called me up and they go, does that mean I got another 25%, so 50%? No, it's if you're already at 25% from your 2013, you've already met the goal. So I just want to let people know that, because a lot of people really took the time last year and effort to reduce their water use.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And I know on our we had the water workshop, you know, and they were well attended.
Very well attended.
And there was a lot of buzz about that, and I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of good information that was disseminated on the
think so.
water conservation strategies.
And we had some of the growers, like the growers are getting a bad rap right now every time I open up the newspaper, our local farmers and ranchers. But you know, their efficiency has come up too. They're watering more acres with less water than they did.
Well, they rely on their wells a lot.
They
right?
do, but still, I mean, they are conserving in their own way. The irrigation systems are more efficient than when I first.
You mentioned the purple
pipe. We're going to
pipe.
have recycled water. There's
That'll
a
help the
purple
farmers.
pipe that goes from the wastewater plant, you know, down by 156 at the end of 4th Street, and it goes along Wright Road corridor out to the airport. And there's a lot of farms out there, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of interest in that water. Because just to give you an idea, we normally sell that CVP water, or blue valve water, about $220 an acre foot. Water on the open market right now, people selling water, is over $2,000 an acre foot. So that's how precious that water is becoming. So by having this recycled water, they'll be able to sell it to the farmers pretty comparable to what the Central Valley Project water is.
So within our area, we've got our farmers and our urban dwellers, and we all work together to save water, and we can get through this and keep it as a permanent, you know, way of life. You know,
Exactly.
it'll be ingrained in our culture about saving water.
Well, it is a precious resource. You think about how many, if you just stop and think how many times you use water through the day, it's amazing how much you use it, you know, and just give that some thought. And that's what I ask people, is just like, be aware when you're using water. Don't leave the faucet running while you're brushing your teeth. Little actions like that.
I know, little things like that. When I take a shower, I have a little lever on my shower nozzle, so when I lather up, I
Excellent.
take that leather.
Yeah, that's good.
Turn it off.
Yeah.
Use a 2-in-1 shampoo, so you don't have to. Makes it easy.
Well, I mean, you can do a lot of actions. I had somebody call me the other day, and they said, you know, when I drop ice on the floor, rather than just throw it in the sink, I put it in my houseplants and let it melt. I mean,
Right.
you know, you're thinking infinite amount of water there. But, you know, there are ways that you can conserve water. And like I know at my house, the water heater's on one side of the house, my bathroom's on the other, so it takes a long time for that water to heat up. So I do catch that water. I have a 5-gallon bucket in my shower, and I water my plants outside. And you know, it's kind of a pain, but I'm getting used to it now. It's like part of the effort, the morning routine. You know,
right?
So
part of the routine.
Yeah, and, you know, and it's like anything else. I know when we started recycling our plastics and stuff, it seemed like a pain, but now it's second nature.
Well, you know, Shawn, I really appreciate your efforts and getting the word out on conserving water and ways we can all work together and achieve that goal. And just recently, getting on a different subject here, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because just a few days ago we had Earth Day, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Earth Day because, you know, 45 years ago we were in the peak of industrialization, and I know we had on a previous show, Herman Garcia was talking about, you know, cleaning the watersheds and all that. Well, in those days, you know, at the height of that industrialization, people got sick from air and water pollution, and garbage and sewage just flowed straight into the ocean. So, and the Cayuga River in Ohio was so polluted that it caught on fire. And the Santa Barbara oil spill killed thousands of fish and birds, and that's when Senator Gaylord Nelson, who was from Wisconsin, witnessed that. And he got together with U.S. Representative Pete McCloskey, who's a Republican, and we are well known here in California, and Dennis Hayes, to create a teach-in on the environment. Well, lo and behold, that teach-in, you know, attracted 20 million
Wow, I
which
didn't
marched
know
on
that.
April 22nd. That's how Earth Day was brought about as a bipartisan effort that started the Clean Air Act, the Endangered Species Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, all signed by
Richard Nixon.
Nixon,
Right.
another Republican.
And he created the EPA too, no?
Yeah,
All right,
so Earth Day is, you know, and a lot of people attracted to and get out there on Earth Day celebrations throughout the nation. I think it's a great way to celebrate our you know, be stewards of the environment and sustainability, and so we had Earth Day, and then just the day before that was John Muir's birthday. That was the 21st. And you know, John Muir was one of my favorite historic figures, a naturalist, and he wrote a couple books that I just finished reading. Is Walking 1,000 Miles to the Gulf, and my first summer in the Sierras, and he devoted a lot of his time to the National Park Bill and the Sierra Club, and just in the couple minutes or a minute that we have left, I do have a quotation from John Muir that I'd like to leave you with, the viewers here, and here's a quote from John Muir. "Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home, that wilderness is a necessity, and that mountain parks and reservations are useful not only as fountains of timber and irrigating rivers, but as fountains of life."
So true.
Yeah, so I know we can still a lot more we can talk about water,
yeah.
but heck, you know, Shawn, I really appreciate you joining me
You know,
today.
I feel entrusted with the community here and doing this job. I love my job, and I just want to help people however I can. I know I'm limited on my funding and what I can do, but you know, what I don't have with my knowledge, I'm wonderful that we have a community here that I can reach out to people up in Santa Clara or whatever that might have, you know, more technical knowledge than I do. And so, you know, I encourage people to call me if they have ideas and how we can do things better. Please call me, 637-4378. Take advantage of our programs and do your part. It's going to take an effort on every individual to weather this drought, and it's the responsibility is with you. We can help you, but it starts at home.
Well said, Shawn, and I know many appreciate your efforts, and I'm privileged and honored to have you as my co-host.
Well, thank you, David.
So, hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Going Green.
Goodbye, everybody.